And like, can I dedicate time throughout this pregnancy to like do filming? Like, that was like my first like kind of fear, because early on in the pregnancy, it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, like that'd be great. But then you get, as we found out a little bit later on in the pregnancy, when things get a little tough, that's like, oh my goodness, this is stressing me out.
Hello and welcome to Healing Trauma Mamas. I'm your host, Midon Wingo. Thank you for joining us as we share in our stories and experiences of healing from childhood traumas and birth traumas. Listen as we discuss our struggles, our failures, our strengths and our victories, and all those lessons we've learned along the way. Why, hello, Healing Trauma Mamas. Welcome back to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining us today. I'm excited because we're going to get to do part 2 of Hannah's story today. Last time she came on the podcast and she was able to share some different experiences, share her heart for women and community and learning all the things and birth education. And she shared her personal experiences with first hospital birth and second hospital birth, and then deciding that she wanted to do something different. And she sought out midwifery care at a birth center and planned for a beautiful birth birth, and that's not how things went for her. And I'm so thankful Hannah just really shared about what that process looked like and being able to work through really the trauma of having these expectations for this big, beautiful birth and still having a good birth in the hospital, but not what she was expecting, and being able to grieve that process and being able to heal from that. And I am so thankful because we get to share today her fourth birth story and how she did things a little bit different this time. And some very unexpected things came up in this birth that were very neat and unique things. And I'm really looking forward to Hannah sharing on the podcast. Hannah, you want to say hi again to everyone?
Yeah, it is great to be back. I don't know why we thought we could get through everything in one episode. So I appreciate you asking me back, and you could have just left everyone, mesmerized, like, oh, what happens next? And just never share.
That's true. Oh my goodness. Yes, I definitely did not think that one through all the way. Like, oh my goodness, we have so much to share, and you have so
Yeah.
much to really so much that all of our audience listeners can get to glean from your experiences. And I'm really thankful because you have such an array of experiences and they're all really unique and beautiful. And yeah, there's so much more. You would think your fourth one, they'll just add that on, but I feel like there's definitely way too much with this fourth birth for you, and really what happened in your life and your husband's life and what was going on with your family at the time and just all the things. Like there's so much to cover. So I want to kind of jump it back in where we had ended. We're really recovering from your third birth and letting yourself grieve and letting yourself work through that process and healing and walking through it all and the joy of getting to have a midwife and how great that was. And so then let's jump in kind of so about how long apart or how far apart is number 3 and 4?
Oh goodness. They are 2 years and 4 months. No, 2 years and
Nice.
8 months apart. Yeah,
So a
I'm
little
like,
bit
had to think about
further
that for a second.
for you. Did you question, because after your second, you ended up getting on birth control at the doctor's suggestion, and that caused so much issues for you. I mean, really, like not even just like depression, but really just like apathy completely for
Hmm.
everything, for life, for all the things. And then you had to come out of that and get off of that birth control. What did you do this time? Did you do anything? Did you, because of those experiences that you had, you made different decisions this time?
Yeah, no, after I had gotten off birth control after my second and, got pregnant a month after all of that, I told my husband, I was like, I don't care what we do. I said, but I will never go on birth control again. Like, it's a non-negotiable for me. My personal views, I know that's not for everybody, but I don't want it to cause any more dysfunction than my body already probably has. And so I just won't. I've chosen to not. I don't want to upset my hormones. I don't want to um, add more risk factor to my body. That's a whole nother level of stuff, but I've just chosen not to. I don't like the way it makes me feel. And I think our body that God designed is made to rid ourselves of things once a month. And so whenever that does come back, I'm 4 months, 2 weeks, whatever it is, postpartum now for my fourth. So I've not started any type of a menstrual cycle yet, but I think our body's just kind of made to do that. And so I won't go on anything again. So with that, I don't know. I don't know what we really did. Other than trying to be careful, I could kind of
Yeah.
gauge my ovulation, some like family planning like that. If we thought, yeah, we definitely are not perfect at it because we were very open to having another baby. We just didn't really know when that was gonna look. There was like a financial factor that came into it that we were just like, oh man, like, trying to be mindful of that. But
So
we
mentally,
really,
how did you feel mentally then in the postpartum after getting past working through, I mean, I'm sure, that was a big process working through the mental from the birth, that you didn't get that you were expecting and working through that immediate postpartum process in the longer postpartum process, like the year following, do you feel like your hormones were completely different than they had been before?
yeah, they were better than after my second. After my second, I definitely was battling some postpartum like anxiety. Um, Mostly he was a really rough newborn, like really rough newborn. And
Mm.
then, he was born in November of 2019. We were in Massachusetts, come around to March of 2020. I mean, like our entire world shut down. So that was hard. I mean, Massachusetts completely closed. Like we couldn't see anybody, we couldn't do anything, like nothing. It was just us four trapped in the house all the time. So I'm sure that added to it. So after my third though, um, I was just trying to be mindful of like how my hormones were like coming back through. Again, this was probably the first postpartum that I had where I was really one, either not masking it with birth control, like after my second,
Yeah.
or which also could have added to a lot of the postpartum anxiety I was having. Like, let's be real. Um, and then with her, I was just mindful. I actually probably had the best postpartum experience um, up to that point. I did not have like baby blues, like I was not anxious. I didn't have any postpartum depression. Obviously, working through all the emotions, like there's a lot that your body does go through, but I know there's different views on it, but I had encapsulated my placenta and I was taking that like regularly. Like I was staying up with that because I knew how it was making me feel. Like I had the best recovery. Um, I really didn't
Well,
have what,
regardless what you feel about like placenta encapsulation, or
yeah,
anybody listening, it's an organ and it's organ meat. And so it's going to really affect you similarly to like desiccated liver, where it's
yeah.
really going to help boost your levels. It's going to help be a blood builder for you. It's going to help you feel better all the way around. So that's super awesome for you. Did question, so at what point in time do you think it was in that process that you decided that you wanted to kind of maybe pursue some doula stuff? Because it's interesting because I actually got to meet you when she was, I'm trying to figure out how old, because I know she was not very old. When we happened to meet at a birthday party.
Had I had her already? Kind of thing.
Yes, because she was in a car seat. Because I remember, and you had told me that you had a birth that had been intended at the birth center, but you ended up having a hospital birth.
She might have been
So,
not quite a year old yet.
yeah, she was pretty young. I know
Because,
that for sure.
she, was born in December, and that birthday party wouldn't have been till what, like September?
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
I mean, but she stayed tiny. I mean, she's still tiny.
That's true.
She,
That's true.
bless, bless her heart, she's in an infant car seat. She's like 18 months old. Um,
Well, I remember that conversation when we met each other, and you were like, "Wait, you're a midwife, you know?" And so we talked a little bit about it, and you were like, "I love birth work, and I'm really
yes.
interested in it." And and you were asking me about doula stuff and doula certification and those types of things. So I was just wondering at what point in time you're like, "Oh my goodness, I need to do some work like that."
Yeah, I think really from a young age that probably that interest started, because I had said like in the first episode, like I was that kid like watching Birth Story like on TLC, probably younger than maybe I should have been introduced to some of that because it was not very, TLC back in 2000, I guess it was 2005 maybe. It was not very, guarded, I guess, like some stuff is on TV now. And I just loved it. Before I committed to going into ministry and really after, because I was, I think, trying to, run away from trying to be a Jonah. Um, but I was really like, I'm going to go into nursing because I'm going to be a labor and delivery nurse. And, that didn't work because God's like, no, I called you to ministry, specifically like pastoral ministry. And so I was like, okay, God, I'll listen and I'll back away from that. And so even from then, I was always just very interested in the birth world. Obviously, having my own and doing so much research just, I mean, boosted all of that. It's kind of like the more I knew, like the more hungry I was to get into that. And then definitely after going through my first midwifery care experience, I'm like, this is it. Like I just love to talk about it. And really it became I wanted other ladies and even, families like to know more, like to know what the other options are out there, how to have if you're hoping for an unmedicated birth, how to have a successful unmedicated birth, how to have a successful in hospital birth. Um, I've been watching a lot of YouTube videos as well of, you know, the either they are a midwife or they're a doula or whatever. I mean, I just kind of started diving right in. And so when I was introduced to you, um, and it was like, what? You're a midwife? Like, I think we stood there and talked like through almost the entire birthday party. This is really before I really got into the homeschool world there in town. And so I hadn't fully connected with you in that way. But yeah, no, our worlds just kind of kept colliding. And I was like, okay, this is a lady that I need to lock arms with. Um, I'm gonna try not to cry. Um, because I just saw like the value of you as not just a person, but as a sister in Christ, and um, how we were just gonna try and change this birth world, in our little small town community. And yeah, it was you helped me so much in that, encouraging me with it, and still are. Even Andrew's like, this year you're gonna get it all done. Now that we're done having babies, yeah, to just really pursue that because it is. I told Andrew, it was so funny. I told him the other day, my husband, I said, this is the one thing that I can see the passion I had for it growing from a young age, that I am still
Mm,
so passionate about it now, like even more passionate about it because of the value that people have put into my own life. And I said, and I can see the need for it. And
yeah.
I'm like, this is not something that's just going away, because I love to bake, I love to do desserts, whatever. But it's like, that's not my passion. Like this is like so much more than that. And it really picked up after my third, for sure. After I got to experience that first midwifery care.
It's so neat to think about like recognizing from an early age these things that were making you like that were exciting you and how it's like it's so neat to be like, oh my goodness, like this is part of who I was created to be. Like be doing these things because I know that from my journey as well, like looking back at different things, like, oh my goodness, I've been a midwife from the beginning. Like I just didn't
Mm-hmm.
realize it and wanted to be with women and wanted to help, and counsel and be resource and all those things and that progression and just look like, oh wow. And I love that Andrew is speaking that into you as well because I had that same thing with my husband like when I was like I know I want to be a midwife but I'm not sure how to do it right now and he was like well let's you get your doula certification right now and let's do that and that'll be better and then whenever it was time to go to midwifery school. Like he was the first one to say it. I didn't. He came to me and be like, "Hey, now's the time for you to start midwifery school." I'm like, I don't know. Is now the right time? I'm not sure. We still have a little one." And I was really like, I remember like he's like, "You really need to think about it because now is the time." And then like a week later, he came back to me. Okay, so did you figure out what school you're gonna go to? And did it? And I'm like, "Oh, I don't know." And I was just scared. I was like, I'm not too sure. And he just kept speaking it into me, like, no, I know you're going to do this thing. Like, this is absolutely. And he could see those things in me from the very, very beginning of our relationship. And we've been together 23 years now. And it's neat to see those things and see the connections and be like, oh, wow, like, this is so cool. And then to start stepping into that, which I know you're starting to do a little bit. And this past year has really opened up a lot of that for you that was not really expected.
Yes. Especially when you asked me to go and birth assist. It was Andrew, he kind of said, he was like, this will be your like make it or break it, if this is really something that you would want to be involved in. Because I had never even had the privilege to attend a birth that was not my own yet. And which was just so cool. I mean, especially to have a first time birth and it ends up being in a car is just absolutely wild. And I remember I got back from that night and Andrew morning, whatever time it was, and Andrew's like, so like is that something you would want to keep doing, that you really want to pursue? And I'm like, you have no idea, like the if I didn't already have that birth bug in me, I was like, this has just absolutely lit that on fire. And I was like, oh yeah, oh yeah. And he was like,
Oh,
I was just asking.
I love it.
And yeah, so it
Yeah.
has
So
been, yeah.
that was so cool because after that conversation, we got to meet each other and stuff. And then we just stayed a little bit connected here and there. You asked me for different doula stuff and looking at different like certifications and just
Hmm.
advice on different things like that. And then I think then we got to you kind of got involved a little bit in the homeschool group that I'm involved in here. And so we got to see each other there a little bit. And we have a mutual friend, which is how we met in the first place. And so then come to find out you're pregnant with number 4.
Yes.
And you guys called me, and it was such a joy to get to come interview. What was kind of funny is for me, I didn't feel like I was just like, oh yeah, I'm your midwife. I felt like I'm interviewing, for the job and just to see if, we'll be a super great fit because we didn't know each other really well or anything like that.
Hmm.
And it was kind of I kind of remember because it was so sweet because I was just thinking like I'm not planning to do a first visit or anything like that. Like we're doing an interview and stuff. And we did the interview and, at the end of it, I was like, hey, you guys let me know what you're deciding. And I remember Andrew was kind of like, I'm pretty sure we know what we're doing.
Yeah.
So I think that was sweet because you were like, oh, you guys are like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah, we will talk with you later. But I could tell Andrew was like, yeah, we pretty sure we already know what we're doing, but okay.
Yeah. Like we had said, my third, I had that birth center birth, but really like my heart had been set on having a home birth. And I knew the midwife I had previously used does not do home births. And, I just, you look at all these little like God sightings like in your life, if that's what you want to call them, and like people that he brings into your life. And I just know like that God brought you into my life, even at a time that I wasn't ready to like have another baby. I'd already had my third, but like I just knew. I was like, this is just too for sure of a thing to like not have you. And I think I told you either at that appointment, interview, or the next one or whatever, that I had really specifically been praying about that pregnancy that week because we found out last um let's see, Christmas Eve of 2024. So almost a year
Right.
ago now, because it's January, 14th, um, that we had found out about him. And I was like, right away, I was like, oh man, like, can we afford another home birth? Can we afford? Because I knew, like, before I was like, if I get pregnant again, I want a home birth. Like I knew that we had moved into our other house that was a little bit more I want to say home birth friendly, maybe, at least for like my view of it. Like the previous place I probably wouldn't have had a home birth there, just from my position. And I was like, no, this house, like where we were living, I was like, this would be just spectacular. Like I was just already envisioning it. And so when it came to that time, I was like, I know Midon does home births. And like you said, we had only been really familiar with each other just through our homeschool group, but I knew that you were a midwife. I had seen when you officially got your like LLC and like everything for it. And I was just like, the more we got to know each other as just women and like as friends, like the more I was like, there's no doubt. And I had told you, I had been praying so specifically for so many needs for that pregnancy. And
Yeah.
for, you're thinking 9 months in advance of like what that birth was going to be. And, so many things like I had written down in my prayer journal. And when we had our interview or whatever with you, like you were saying stuff that I had literally only written down in my prayer journal. Like you were confirming like so many things I had only talked to God about when it
Oh,
came to that
wow.
time. And so I was like, nope, nope. Like this is like, Andrew said, he was like, I don't think we need to interview anybody else.
Oh,
Yeah.
I didn't know that. That's so neat to
Yeah.
hear. That's amazing.
Yeah. And yeah, it was just great. It was
Yeah.
exactly what we needed.
So, so so we started out the journey as, midwife and client and all of that, although we had other things too. So it's kind of fun
Yeah.
when you're a midwife and because HIPAA and all the things and then I think it was shortly after and I thought I knew you guys had told people you were pregnant and stuff and then we had a homeschool meetup and I remember thinking like be careful, only say things to her that you would know from your already relationship with her and not from anything in regards to an appointment with her, because that is something we always want to make sure really careful about and yeah, I remember thinking that was kind of neat. And then I remember like you looked at one of the women and she was like, so did you hire Midon or not? Or something like that. And you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah.
It was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. Well, because I think it was right before I had called you. Um, I had found out I was pregnant already, but like nobody knew, like nobody at all. I
Yeah.
think it was at the milk drop, I think, or something. And I was like, I hadn't told like a soul. Like we had only told, I think, family. And yeah, I'm thinking, I really want to talk to her because I think I told you that when I called you. I was like, I really wanted to talk to you the other day, but I hadn't told anybody yet. And yeah, it was really, really funny and just cool. I don't know. I felt like our specific like relationship, like obviously like my pregnancy and all of that, like our client relationship was so much more than that just because we were building like an outside of that relationship too. I don't know. It was just
Yeah, I agree. Yeah,
I
it's
don't
pretty
know.
neat. Yeah, and then you add, so you're going through this pregnancy and things are really, they're going well. Pregnancy is going well and
Mhm.
Andrew's on board with home birth and at least from my understanding at that point in time and
Yeah.
we talked about all his concerns at the beginning and all of that, safety concerns and that stuff and financial concerns because that's an important thing as well. And then that I think that just kind of worked out well. I was able to work with you guys like you needed,
Mhm.
and I think that worked out well for everybody. And then Midon calls you with this kind of maybe proposition. So, do you want to
Absolutely
share about
wild.
that?
Oh goodness.
Um,
Um, yeah, so I have a Hollywood star on the Walk of Fame now. No. Um, yeah, no, you called me up. I want to say I was what, 2 months, 3 months? I don't even
somewhere
know.
around there because you were
It
coming
was
close to
early.
your 20-week anatomy scan. I think you were getting
Yes.
close to 18 weeks. You weren't quite there yet. I think you might have been 16 weeks maybe.
Yeah, I know it was
Um,
sometime around February because by the first time we met, um, Caleb was for that scan, and I
right.
knew that was like in March because it was already getting like
Yeah.
nice and warm. Yeah, you called me up and were like, you need to think about this. She was like, talk to Andrew about it. But there's a Christian filmmaker based out of Lubbock that feels very led to do a documentary about birth and like midwifery care and all of that. And he wants to, have to follow like a pregnancy, like all the way through, like to birth. And, obviously we kind of talked about that. And I'm like, oh, dang. Like that was like my first reaction was like, oh. And then my second was like, okay, is this obviously we've got three older children. We have a youth group that we are very busy and involved with. And I'm like, can I dedicate time throughout this pregnancy to like do filming? Like that was like my first like kind of fear, because early on in the pregnancy, it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, like that'd be great. But then you get, as we found out a little bit later on in the pregnancy when things get a little tough, that's like, oh my goodness, this is stressing me out.
Yeah,
Um,
true.
and so we did, like Andrew and I talked about it and we were like, yeah, like I think that'd be great. Like that would be so um interesting one to do. Like, I mean, how fun to get to be involved in a documentary about something you're really, really passionate about. But then also you had said he specifically is looking for somebody that's had previous um hospital births that's now looking to have, a home birth. And I'm like, well, that's me. Like, that's me. And I don't know, it just felt very right to say yes, even after we had talked about it and prayed about it. So then, we met via Zoom, kind of like I don't know, I told Andrew, I said it felt like an audition
It
almost,
kind of was
as,
like, yeah, an interview
yeah,
slash audition for
yeah,
sure. Just to kind
yeah,
of see, like, because I know Caleb really wanted, like, even when he had asked me if I had any ideas of any clients that might kind of fit the bill of what he's looking for to be a big part of, to be filmed for the documentary, and that they would have to really like it's a unique fit and that they would have to be for one they got to be good on camera, they got to be able to talk and they got to be able to go around without focusing on the camera. And they also, really need to be like warm and inviting because people, you want it to be a big part of the film that people being invited into these people's world. And anytime we're watching a film like that, we're being invited into those people's world. And so there was some criteria and things that he really wanted to line up. And so when he was telling me those things, I had two clients come to my mind right away. You were one of them, and then another client. And he said, well, I think what the best thing to do is for me to interview them. We'll jump on a Zoom and be able to have a conversation and just kind of see how that conversation goes before I meet him in person, because he lives quite a ways away. And so I know so Zoom was the best way to do that. And I could tell right away in that Zoom conversation that, oh yeah, they're going to hit this off. Like this is going to be good. I don't know about you guys though. How did you feel about that?
Um, I don't think I was nervous, and like Andrew never gets nervous about stuff. It's so annoying. But no, I don't think I was really nervous. I was more like, okay, God, like if this is what's meant to be, and I think I said it in there, like if we're the right fit, then let it be known, like to all of us. Like let this be a very like comfortable like conversation that we get to have. Like let what we've been through be like what he needs and feels like is what's right for the documentary. And I wasn't gonna be upset like either way, whether we got chosen, or whatnot. And I think I don't know what kind of, I don't know, we could talk to him about this, of course, but I think the piece that was like key was we just wanted to get the information out there to, these future moms, these future families, that it's like it doesn't have to be just this generic formula that the birth world um has thrown at us, and it became a ministry. It wasn't
Mm.
just something that was like, oh, just this like cool thing we're doing. Like, no, like this is a ministry. Like this is a mission that we're trying to get out there. And I think all of our missions, all of our hearts were aligned in that. And so even when we got off there, I know he said something along the lines, Caleb, the filmmaker, along the lines of, well, I'm gonna have some time with the Lord this next day or two. He was like, and I'll let you know. He was like, but I'm very confident that this is the direction that we want to go. And I know we got off that, and Andrew and I are like, did we just like get
What did we
hired
do?
basically like to be part of this documentary? And he was like, I don't know, I guess we'll see. And then Caleb messages me, us, whatever, like the next day, and he's like, this is a go. He was like, if you guys are ready to start this, he was like, I'd love to start this process with you. And so it was also cool, like a relationship with him and his family that I was so not expecting, like for this birth this time. And now it's so much more than what I thought. The first time I met him, I'm like, oh, he's just gonna be this guy that comes in and out like to film. And it became so much more than that too. And
Yeah.
you know, and slightly selfishly, maybe not selfishly, but I was also like, how cool would it be to have my last birth like documented, like all the way through, like up to birth. And so I thought that was also just such a like a little cherry on top, that, oh, my last birth, not
Hmm.
only am I getting to share so
Yeah.
much about the birth world, but also, oh, no, I get to have this whole thing filmed too.
Well, it was really fast that he filmed. Like I think you guys interviewed, and was it the next week or the following week that he came down to film your 20-week anatomy scan?
Yeah, it was maybe like 2 weeks, maybe. Yeah,
Yeah, maybe if that, because I know
yeah.
it was really quick. Because I was like, if you really want to film this from as early as you can, like you're gonna like
Hmm.
it's gonna need to happen pretty soon. Yeah, so I thought that was really neat too. And not only like let's just say selfishly for me too, that like the family he chose is in my hometown. Like that
Yeah.
is pretty cool, that's, of all the different, because most people listening to this know that I am kind of the traveling rural midwife in this area. And so while I occasionally have clients actually in Sweetwater, actually in my town, most of my clients are not in Sweetwater and they are all over the place. And so it was really
Yeah.
neat for me that he chose somebody that's in Sweetwater and that I, that I'm, close to as well. And that it would be such a neat project that we would all kind of get to do together. So yeah, yeah, unexpected. I didn't know Caleb very well at that point either. Was getting to know him and later got to meet his family at the time, and now we've done so many different things together as family, our family and his family, and then we even got to go do a neat thing, a neat walk for life together up in
Mm.
Lubbock, and we got to do like some neat different things together. So that's kind of fun. So back to your journey with him. So this started a process of kind of changing up a little bit about your pregnancy, and now kind of bringing this other person in where we're kind of doing some scheduling so that he's going to be to some appointments to get our appointments on
Mhm.
video and get that as well. And then also he came in and did some extra filming with you guys.
Yes, and like I said, it honestly all worked out like so well. But yeah, he wanted to do some like family life stuff. He wanted me to kind of show, my envisioning for like the birth and all of this, like, walk him as he's filming like through the space. We had a couple of like big interviews, which is just I did not know at the time that I was like, not me, but our family, I guess, like the birth, was like the highlight of like this documentary. I really didn't even know that until like
I
he,
didn't know that
you
either.
know, yeah, like email, because I knew he was filming some other obviously births, but I did not know that like me and like my family were from like the start, like all like following this journey all the way through. And even, the email that he sent of kind of like the cover, like that's me, like that's my silhouette, like with my little baby in my belly. And I'm just like,
I got
oh
so
my
excited when
gosh.
I saw that.
I like
Yeah.
literally had this moment. I was like, Andrew, like I was like, I didn't know that this was what was happening. I said, I thought we were just like one of like many, it was just gonna be like these little snippets throughout. And he's like, doesn't look like it. And so that was just a little unexpected twist. But yeah, he came throughout the duration of the pregnancy. Again, like scheduling, got a little tricky at times, just because again, like Andrew and I are like pretty busy. As we were there in Sweetwater with ministry and stuff, we had a few things come up that
You're
we
also
just had to
kind of private
cancel.
individuals. And
Yeah,
so I
yeah.
was wondering how you felt like about that. Like, obviously, you love birth work and you're very passionate about sharing this type of care and sharing your experience, and that's beautiful. But as individuals, as people, I feel like you're pretty private people. So how do you feel like that kind of affected, or am I wrong? Like,
No, yeah, private, but I mean, I would also maybe use the word like modest. Like I know I
yeah.
shared that like with you, and one of the first things I asked Andrew when we were going to be doing, before we even had like the interview with him, I was like, he would be there like for the birth, and he would be there like for the anatomy scan and everything. And, because obviously, like, I value, like, my husband, like, he values me and, like, the modesty that we've created, like, just within our own relationship. And, I'm like, is that okay for you? Like, are you going to be comfortable with him filming a birth, with filming my ultrasounds, And he was like, yeah, like, if you're comfortable with that, like, I will be, he was like, it's like bringing a baby into a world. It's not just showing yourself off, like for
Right.
for I can't say the word. Uh, promiscuity. I
Promiscuity.
can't say it. Yes, thank you.
It's
Um,
okay.
and I was like, okay. And so that, was part of it, as far as like sharing just our life. I think we've grown in that. I think in ministry, you have to be really transparent. Now, this has probably been the most transparent I've ever been with any of my births, for sure. And especially when the documentary fully comes out, I'm like, well, people are definitely going to see a side of Hannah that they've never seen before. But I'm also like this again, it comes back to like this is a ministry, like this is a mission, to get out. And um I think sharing verbally was always like fine for us, because I think the sphere that we've been in for the last golly, almost 10 years of our life, like being in ministry now,
hmm
you kind of need to be. But when it came to that side was a little like, okay, like this is a little weird, like Midon, when he would fill our appointments, it's like, oh yeah, Midon's, like listening for the heartbeat and like my whole belly's out, that was a little like, well, this is just different for me. I've probably never showed anybody my bare belly male wise, other than like my husband,
Sure.
because I've never been like a bikini wearer or anything like that. And so I'm like, well, this is a little different. But again, I think it came back to like, well, why are we doing this? Like this is like a mission. Like clearly, like he wants our story to be shared, like what we have been through with our other births, like with our other experiences, you know, being in more like the medical world of it. And so yeah, I think it came down to that. But we ended up, I think because of him, we were so comfortable. Even with the birth, we got to see like those little clips when he surprised us at that dinner, and I'm like, dang, like you really did like, you know, highlight the birth and got the birth without it being like, here's every, everything. Um, and I think you could probably attest to this, like if you and had contact with him to be like, she's a little bit more reserved, like with what she shows, like physically.
Sure.
Um, you know, maybe we'll like not highlight, maybe some stuff or whatever, but still get the the gist of obviously like the birth and everything. And I think that was so telling of like our relationship, you and I, to be like, hey, I'm gonna vouch for her in like so many ways, or I'm gonna like stand up for her in so many ways. Not that he wanted to do anything that we weren't comfortable with, but you're just like, I'm gonna protect like a lot of her peace with this pregnancy.
That was neat. I think what's interesting is some of it I did subconsciously, I think, because when I've looked at some of the video now, I was like, oh, that was unique how that was placed or whatever. And he's like, didn't you do that on purpose? I'm like, I don't know. Did I do that on purpose? I had to stop and think about it. I was like, I think, like I subconsciously knew, like, okay, we are filming over here, but I'm really focused on you and the birth, but knowing you and knowing how you felt like about modesty and like, honoring what you wanted on it. Like yeah, I think I did like do some things to just kind of like protect that space for you a little bit more, which is so interesting because I didn't even know I was doing them at the time. I don't think I would have consciously told you that I was doing them, but
Yeah.
looking back, I'm like, oh yeah, you were. Yeah, you that I don't know, just a natural desire to help, protect and honor you in that process. So do you want to kind of go into so we've got to see clips and probably the audience now when they're listening. We'll have in the show notes, but absolutely, please go watch some of the clips and you'll get to see what we're talking about. The whole documentary is not completed yet, as in it's not in the final cut yet.
It's in
But
like
we'll share
post
more at the end of the
production.
podcast. Yes, it's post production right now. We'll share a little bit more about that. But let's go, let's kind of go back and do a little bit leading up to like third trimester, leading up to the birth. Do you even want to talk a little bit about how there were some moments where he was wanting to film and you're just like, I I need you not to film me. I need you to just like leave me alone for a little bit. Not that
Yeah.
he's overbearing. Like it was a scheduled, planned film time and stuff. And you were just like, can I say no? Like, of course you can say no. Like you still have complete say about this whole situation. This is all, led by you guys, whether or not that you want to be involved and how much you want to be involved. And at any point in time, you could have said, no, we're out. I'm done. We decided not to do this. So you had the right, and he respected that. I know for sure. But I know there were a few times where you were just like, it's really hard when you say yes to something like that to really understand what it's going to encompass and the mental load and where you already have, like especially third trimester and you're already planning, the birth and you have other things. And then to also be thinking about it being filmed and the planning for that as well. What would you like to share
I'll
about
just take
that?
Um, yeah, like you said, at the beginning of pregnancy, it's so easy to be like gung ho for like all this stuff. But then as you get further along, like, there's some exhaustion that comes into play. There's um just anxiety of like, okay, like I've got to get all this stuff kind of handled all at once. Obviously, like I was homeschooling, had 3 kids, like we had ministry we were, involved in, and there were times like it just felt like certain weeks it just felt like too much. Um to think like, oh, I've got to get this done and this done and this done and this and this, and it just became too much. And something I've learned, especially now as I was coming into my 4th pregnancy, was like there are times I have to say no to things, even though I knew it was like it would be so like beneficial to the documentary, or it was going to be, just beneficial to like him coming in. And not that I didn't want that, but I was like, okay, there were times like I had to say no to other things too. You know, I was saying no to, some homeschool stuff that we needed to do, like outside, like co-op stuff, because, we had 2 different co-ops we were involved, like our local one and then our one that was a little bit further away. And yeah, there were times I was just like, I can't. Like, I just can't, like I was under like mountains of laundry, at times. And like, it was like house stuff was kind of like overwhelming. And again, like I had a super, super sweet lady, like from our church that was coming in, kind of helping me with that. She's like, let me come in and like help you clean. Let me come in and just like fold clothes for you, um, all that kind of stuff. And that was definitely more towards, I would say, what, the last 6 weeks of pregnancy, maybe, just about that, where I was like, nope, nope, I'm sorry, I can't do it. Or because he wanted to come in. I think one of the last things he really wanted to do was come in and film like me doing housework late in pregnancy. And I'm like, nope,
I
can't do it.
remember you sent me a message and you were like, do you think it'll be okay if I say no and if I don't have him come? And I was like, girl, done. He's not coming.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was like, taken care of. Done.
Yeah, because I was also having like, oh my goodness, like those last couple weeks, I felt like we're just never gonna end. And I was having like those Braxton Hicks like almost constantly. Like I was like, it was just a mess. And I was like so miserable. And I'm like, the last thing I could even fathom wanting somebody to do right now is to come in, film me, and I have to like put on. Not that any part of the documentary was like insincere or anything like that, but I was like, the last thing I want is somebody to come in to have to film me to do laundry,
Because
um
I don't want to do laundry. So
because I don't want to do laundry. Like I'm not doing anything. Like, and it was so hot, of course, like that Texas heat, like right there and around like July and everything. And I was like, dude, and we got back from vacation, and because that was what, when did we go on vacation? Like middle of July, I think, something like that.
yeah,
And I was like, nope. After that, I was
yeah.
literally just like in baby mode. Like I kept the house as like clean. And that was probably another mental bit of it where I'm like, okay, he's gonna be coming in to film this birth. Like, how do I want my home like portrayed, like that all these people are gonna see? And so I was like, my poor kids, like the older ones especially, I was like, toys? stay in the playroom at all times. Um, and I felt like I
You know,
protected my
it's
family pretty well with that.
good. Well, you know what's really interesting about that? Because I was just thinking, so the reason for your transfer last time in your third birth was due to high blood pressure, and you ended up, having to transfer to the hospital and ended up having to take medication and then induce you due to high blood pressure. So that was a consideration in this birth as well. And I'm sure it was a little bit in the back of your mind that, yes, we're doing this documentary. Yes, I'm planning for this home birth, and all that. But last time I made it and then I didn't. I had the high blood pressure and then had to go. And so I know from the very beginning we talked about that, and we talked about really working on nutrition and things to really help make sure that your blood pressure did not get high. But was that in your mind at all this time?
Yeah, there were definitely, and again, I think it's just a little bit of that, trauma, which like everyone's trauma can be their own. I'm not comparing like mine to like somebody else that had, like an emergency, like C-section and had to have a hysterectomy with a C-section, like obviously like there's so much birth trauma. But for me, like there was a little bit like in the back of my mind, I'm like, okay, but my blood pressure kind of started going up at this point, but then like it really went like to an extra point like the last 2 weeks or so of my third, pregnancy. So I'm like, oh, is that going to happen again? So like, I mean, I was trying so hard to like release like as much as I could. I know sometimes you would come in and be like, we're just going to sit, we're just going to chill. Like,
Yeah.
we're not gonna, take your blood pressure right now, and we're not like, we're just gonna relax for a little bit. And so I really did like take as much off of my plate as I possibly could, um, to just keep that, because a lot of times like stress like is coming, from where you're at mentally with a lot of things.
Hmm.
And it was so funny because when I did get my blood pressure under control, more so like obviously during that whole pregnancy, like the different steps you took, you're like, hey, at 20 weeks, like we automatically start taking this, and all of that. I didn't realize like how bad I was probably feeling with the high blood pressure when I got it to come down. And I say even out of like the pregnancy aspect, like parts of the nutrition skills that you gave me like have carried over, into like postpartum and after. And I was like, man, there are things like I am never gonna go back to, and that I'm always going to, be taking now, like because of the information you gave me. And yeah, so that was part of it for sure. But also
Awesome.
like I released like some of the hold I had on like perfection with a lot of it, where I'm like,
Mm.
okay, I don't have to be perfect in order like to have this baby, and
Yeah.
it was a mental game, like 100%. Like a lot of people say, oh, there's so much physicality involved. Like, well, there is, but a lot of pregnancy is a mental game, and
It's mental. Yep.
you've got to like be, prepared for that. But and I was, and we had everything under control. I know you're always like, you're a manual blood pressure taker. Like I'm not going to use, yeah, I'm not going to use the electric one, which was so
So how do you, yeah. So leading up to the birth then, so it is kind of preparation. And I know in all of our minds, we're thinking about timing. Because, and we all trust, and I say we all, Andrew, you, Caleb, the filmmaker, and me, like all of us together, just trusting we will all be in the right place at the right time for the perfect timing of this little one to come into the world. And so the filmmaker lived over 2 hours away from you.
yeah.
Yes, and me, thankfully, I just live 5 minutes away from you, because you were in Sweetwater. But there are many, many times that I am 2 hours away from you as
Mhm.
well, because I'm seeing clients as the, rural traveling midwife around here. And so you never know where I'm gonna be when somebody goes into labor. We just try to, I think all of us have talked about, we'll just all be where the Lord has us to be when we need to be there. That's all we can do. And do you want to talk about that lead up a little bit and going into labor?
Yeah, and that was a part of it that I really had to release too, because I was worrying about everybody else, like other than, just myself, because my husband's sister, my sister-in-law, she lives a couple of hours away from where we were as well. And I'm like, oh man, like, is she gonna get here? I was worrying about my mother-in-law that was gonna be there, like, oh, like her work stuff. And even though she was local, but I'm still like, oh, I don't want her to have to take off like too much time from work. And, then again, thinking of, Caleb, like, oh, is he gonna get here in time? And all of that. I wasn't ever concerned about you. Oddly enough, I think just because I knew like how you had canceled, not canceled, but had to reschedule some of my um appointments. Um, just because it's like, oh, I've got a mom like going into labor. It's like, of course, like you
Sure.
go. And, I would want a fellow mom, that's pregnant to feel the same of like, oh yeah, go be with that person. Which it was like a light bulb moment, even with that, where I'm like, all of these moms are like connected, like just through the one
Hmm.
midwife, and like we're supporting each other, even though like we don't know we're supporting each other,
That's
in a
so
roundabout
true.
way. And I thought that was just so cool. And so,
You
yeah,
know how many
leading up
times I've
to
canceled appointments because I'm like, hey, there's a mom in labor,
that,
and whatever, I gotta go. And everybody will text and they'll be like, oh my goodness, yay, we're praying for the mom, let us know when you reschedule or something like that. Like, that's such a beautiful thing. Like, y'all are praying for each other and thinking about each other
yes,
for the birth, and you don't even know each other.
yes. And, some people be like, oh, that's so off-putting. Like, you only have one midwife. Like, and what if they don't get there or whatever? I'm like, you don't understand. Like, you're not gonna understand. And I was never like, obviously like off put when it's like, oh, you have to cancel. It'd be more like, oh, cool. I don't have to clean my house.
Which I
Um,
always say, you don't have to clean your
I
house
know,
just because
I
I'm
know you did,
coming.
but it's just a me thing. It's okay. And yeah, so even with that, like leading up to the birth, it was a rough week. I had a rough week because like I kind of had like a false alarm the week before, and so then that whole week
Hmm.
I'm just like, when is this going to happen?
It's hard.
And you reassured me. You were like, hey, my last two, like I never knew when I was going to go into labor, and so obviously after that first week, then it came around to that next Monday, and I'm like, it's gonna be the same stinking thing. Like I'm gonna have these contractions early in the morning. They're gonna go away during the day, and then nothing's gonna happen. And I've called all these people for no reason. And you know, little did I know that that was going to be like the real deal that day. And I really didn't even think it was all the way up until like I'm getting in the pool. To have some like pain relief. I'm like, oh, like maybe I really am like in labor. Um, but yeah, I really had to get past, and even my mother-in-law, she was like, she just is like that Texan like lady, but she was like, sweetheart, like, don't worry about my work, don't worry about who needs to get here when they need to get here. Like, you worry about you, worry about the baby, and we'll just follow along when we need to. And I'm like, okay, like
Oh,
so those last 2 weeks, man, I think it's been with all my kids. I'm just so emotional. Like I will just bawl like at the drop of a hat. Someone's like, "Oh, how are you feeling?" I'm just gonna start crying. Like I'm great, but I'm just gonna be crying. Um, and yeah, still, I was really more encouraged. Like the further along I got, that my blood pressure was staying so like even keeled that I was like,
yes.
we got this. I was never scared about like, oh, home birth, like none of that. I was just like so ready for it. Cause I mean, I told you I was having dreams of like waking up and like I'd missed the birth. And I'm like, how? How would
It's
I?
true.
I think I told you that. I was like, I had this dream that I missed the whole thing. And it's like, well, that's not going to happen. I had to like speak reality back into me. But I was like, I'm, I'm like going crazy. I think because of the previous birth where it's like, I missed this one. And it's like, well, that's not going to
Yeah.
happen. But it was a good couple of weeks. Just the care that was enveloping us, like honestly. And then you. kind of also like speaking up and being like, I think you just need some space. Do you need some space? Like that, I don't know what time it was, like 11 o'clock or so,
When you were
10?
in labor.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it was no, it was pretty late. Because you had been you had called in that early morning, and I had actually already gone to go check on another mom pretty far away. And you'd let me know what all was going on, and you thought maybe, maybe not. You weren't really convinced, but but I had asked you to let me know. So for sure you let me know. And I'm sure, knowing that you were going to need to get the filmmaker here probably had you like a little bit higher alert letting me know about labor.
For sure, for sure.
Just because knowing, he's a little farther away, and then your friend Dula, she was a little farther away. And so just, knowing that you wanted these people in place. So I did that appointment and then came up to just check on you and to see how we're doing. And it was like, yeah, I think we are likely in labor, but it's early, and all that. You all chill and rest and eat, and what you always say, right?
Exactly.
Eat, take a nap, eat some food, chill out with the family. So then, and then we had Caleb go ahead and come this way. Um, Hindsight, cool, because we just wanted him at the ready, not to go and see you. We don't want to disturb labor, and that is actually a challenging piece about having somebody come and document such an intimate and private thing, where we do want
Yeah.
people to know about this. We do want them to understand, but also just by the fact that we're having somebody come in to film it, even though you have a good relationship with that person and you feel very safe and still like, everything is really great, then you still wanted to, like, I would think, like, you still have that piece of this person coming into film. And it's hard for us to know exactly what role that fully takes place in the birth, right? We don't know, right? So did you get maybe a little extra longer early labor? Maybe because we were trying to
Yeah.
get everybody in place.
Yeah, it was almost like my I don't know, it was like as soon as everybody was in town, I should say, like it definitely felt a little bit I don't know, it was like twofold. It was like I understood it's like okay, everyone's here, like that's okay. Like um I can go into full labor now. Like I can have this baby. But then on the other hand, because of what happened the week before, I was like, oh man, I better go into labor. So it was a little bit of both. And yeah, I would say I was a little bit um eager, maybe I should say, to let people know in advance
Yeah.
because it's like, again, like I knew people had to be coming. So I'm like, well, even if this is, I guess, a false alarm, again, at least,
Yeah.
at least we're here. Um, but yeah,
And we
and then
were, and it
yeah,
wasn't.
and it wasn't.
And maybe we'll leave a little bit to like entice people, like, wait, you have to go see the documentary to know exactly how all the birth went. But if you want to just do a really brief, maybe how the birth went and kind of afterwards what you were thinking, but we'll leave all the details of the birth. I think that's kind of fun to be like, okay, you're gonna have to watch the documentary to see how the whole birth went. But you want to give just a brief.
Yeah. Again, I really was still not thinking I was in labor because even maybe you can, say to this too. Like, I don't think my contractions were ever really like I don't know, like steady. Like they were so bizarre. And even
They
like I
so
can go
weren't.
back to it. I'm like, what is going on right now? It'd be like, oh, this one's 2 minutes apart and it's really, really strong. Oh, well, now this one's 4 minutes apart and it's kind of eh. Like I was sleeping through some of them. And it wasn't until those like huge, big, like peak ones that I would be like, oh, like I'm awake. Like it was waking me up, like out of, sleep. And yeah, no, it was great. I think when you suggested like, hey, we'll go walk, because then my brain flipped to like, I can't let these contractions let up because if I do, then my labor is gone. Like it's like no more labor. Like I'm gonna be out of it. And so I kind of was a little bit like, okay, like let's just keep things going. Like let's go for walks. Like let's, you know, do this or whatever. And so when you suggested that, when you said, oh, okay, like let's go for a walk, Caleb was just going to film us kind of like walking down the road. And then you're like, then let's just chill for a bit. Like let's let you guys like have your time. Like you guys can go rest or whatever. And I think when you said that, it just allowed me to have that like breathing room, for a little bit. Like you said, I think that's so key for like midwives to be able to pick up on like the unspoken needs of, you know, their clients, and it that also just shows like the relationship that's like built with them. And so yeah, we did that. I had some breathing room. Because you just said, do you feel like there's just like too many eyes on you, like too many watching, like it's something along
Yeah.
those lines. And I was yeah, like yeah, I think so. And you're like, okay, like we'll just hang back for a little bit. I think you said you only went to your car, but like that was fine. You're like, all my equipment's here, and I'm like, that's fine. Um, and I did, like, Andrew went to go rest, and I was kind of like in and out of rest. I probably should have rested more, looking back on it, but I don't know, I got to that point like I just couldn't. But still, it was nice to just like have a couple of hours, just us. And towards the end of that time, like that's when those contractions really started peaking, and I could just tell they were getting stronger. And I'm like, okay. And that's when I was waking Andrew up. You had come back in, and I had called like my friend that was kind of like being my doula for me. And uh, I was like, Andrew, I think I'm going to need you soon. Like, that's what I remember telling him. I was like, oh, I think I might need you soon. Like, they just seemed like they were getting a little bit stronger. And then, I mean, from then, like, to when having, sweet baby Bennett was like, I don't know, 3 hours maybe?
Not that long. Yeah,
Not
wasn't that
that
long.
long. No.
Beautiful as the sun was coming up and the kids were waking
Yes.
up. Yeah,
Yes.
pretty
And
amazing.
it's so funny because my older kids, especially the oldest two, they were like, every night after a while, is he going to be here? When we wake up, will baby be here? Because, we didn't share his name until like he was born. And will baby be here? And I was like, I don't know. And so it was so sweet. Seriously, just another answer to prayer that, they got to wake up. It was like Christmas morning. They woke up and like he was what, 15 minutes fresh? Like,
If that, yeah, it was
yeah,
really fresh
nothing.
because we heard them moving around and I was like, okay, she's gonna get the baby out right before they get down here,
Yeah,
hopefully.
yeah, yeah. And that was the one thing, like,
Yeah.
I vaguely recall, I'm like, I think it's getting early or, late. I was like, I feel like it's getting kind of early into the morning, like that, 5:30, like 6 o'clock time, whatever. And I'm like, the kids sometimes get up by like 7. And I was like, oh man, like, please let them either be up in enough time that they can go somewhere, because I had already like kind of scheduled like somebody to be able to come and get them. I was like, or, that it's not, or keep them asleep at least till I have the baby. Cause, I was like, I know as soon as I have it, like
Yeah.
it's a lot better, but I just didn't want them to wake up right when it's like, oh, I'm like one push away or whatever.
Yeah.
Um, no, and his birth was like so healing, in so many ways. Um, Obviously had, that little bit of, bleeding, issue. And that was just so encouraging, like how quickly like you took care of that. And, there was like no worries, like there wasn't anything, at least on my end, like I was never like, oh man, like what's going on, and, just that I was able to still be in the pool, when I needed it. And there was just, I mean, I couldn't have asked for a better experience. And I think it's so telling to be like, I feel very content, and I felt very like final, that
Mm.
okay, Lord, like if this is really our last, like I am at so much peace with being done with bringing babies into the world from me, and to then take that into the next phase of my life, where,
Mm.
okay, well, I'm not really done bringing babies into the world. It's just going to look different.
Yeah. Well, and now you're like a big birth advocate, and like you were before, but like you're very visually a birth advocate. And yeah, I mean, your picture is on the cover of the documentary, and we found out that your experience and everything with the filmmaker, like it's going to be the story running through the main and like kind of like the anchor of the documentary. And that is so cool for you. I mean, like that's so exciting to get to impact so many people with your story. It's beautiful.
Yeah, definitely an unexpected twist to all of it. I guess I wasn't quite sure what I was saying yes to when all that first came about, but um, definitely just a cool experience that is gonna, I think, far surpass anything that you,
Yeah.
I, Caleb, have been able to see, because I think, it's called Birthing Revolution. I think there truly is this uprising, if you want to call it, of just women that want something different out of
Yeah.
out of their birth, like out of their care. And we need to make some waves in the birth world, literally, birth pool, or figuratively.
Yep. I love it. Beautiful. Well, for the listeners, if you would like to contribute to helping this documentary get finished, it is in the post-production stage. They are, editing, all the filming is completed, but they are editing all the filming, putting the music score with it, and then the work of getting it in the hands of people. That's going to take some time, and we really want to make sure that this gets out there for as many families and as many women to be able to see and know their options and really see the value of midwifery care. So if that's you and you want to help contribute to that, check out the show notes and come contribute to Birthing Revolution. I'll have links in the show notes, links on my Instagram and Linktree. So please go check that out. Every little bit helps, guys, even if it's $50 or $100. If everybody listening just contributed just that small of amount, it would make a massive difference in us getting this documentary out to everybody. So we'd really appreciate that support. And thanks so much for supporting and listening to Hannah's story, coming and listening to Healing Trauma Mamas podcast. We wouldn't do it without you listeners. And that's what we're here for, to really just help. I love what you said, Hannah. It's just, making some waves in the world about birth and care. And it's a beautiful thing. Any final words that you would like to share?
I think so. Just do your research. Even if you've had past trauma, like, don't let that stop you from continuing to research and, find the providers that are going to listen to you, that are going to love on you, because they're out there. They are 100% out there. You just need to find them, and do your due diligence. Like, don't give up. Don't give up if you've had past trauma, because I'm a testament that, so much more can come out of another birth. And so, yes, that would be my last thing. Just don't give up. Keep pursuing knowledge when it comes to birth.
Love it. Beautiful. Yeah. So much beauty can come after those different traumatic experiences. And it's a really neat thing to see. So thank you, everybody, for listening today. Enjoy your evening or morning or day, wherever you are. Thank you for listening. May you be encouraged and strengthened by what you've heard today. Remember, you are dearly loved by your Creator, so be who He created you to be. May you go in peace, friends. Till next time, Shalom.